And a pleasant Saturday to you. Welcome to Lone Star Park at Grand Prairie. I'm Jim Byers alongside Rick Lee, our track handicapper whose picks are in the program and morning line maker and a part-time clocker here as well. Rick, happy Belmont Day. It's at Saratoga again this year, a mile and a quarter. We'll touch on the Belmont later today, even though there's no Triple Crown at stake. It's a pretty interesting race. It's not a real deep field or a real big field, and the track is sloppy at Belmont. They've even had to take a couple of races, the 9th and 12th, right off the program, just canceled straight. But the Belmont should be a pretty interesting race. The post time will be at about 6:04 our time, and we'll offer a little thought on it later, but fans can wager on that. The Belmont information is in the very front part of your program, but it's interesting having Saratoga open and have it only be June. Flip across the TV, you feel like it should be mid to late summer, but it isn't.
I know.
But Belmont under a many-year rehabilitation project, so running at the Spa. And we've got an interesting card today. I looked at some of my picks again before coming down. I'm taking some shots. I could go for 10 today, but I could have some really nice winners. So I'm hoping the latter.
Yeah, it seems like a card where taking shots is warranted. There's no really odds-on choices today that I can recall, so they're pretty competitive.
There are some logical favorites in here that I'm trying to beat, so we'll see. On to the first. This is an interesting race. Maiden $20,000 claimers, so really nowhere near the bottom of the maiden ranks. It's open company, 7/8 of a mile, but I really, really don't like the form of the ones that have experience. So I'm taking two firsters, but let's talk first about the ones that have more history to them. You're taking a horse that I didn't even wedge into my top four, although he is Bishop Creek. I mean, overall, figures in here, I dumped everybody that had much experience.
Yeah.
Might not be the right move, but that's
at least two, maybe three picks are based totally on seeing these horses in the morning breezes, and that's why I picked Bishop Creek. He actually breezed last Saturday morning, and so when I came across him in the entries, I thought, oh, my gosh, I just clocked this horse, an hour earlier, and he looked like he was full of run to me, and that was the 48 work on June 1st. You notice he had a bullet work, on May 15th. So he's really been training fast on this main track. He's had three breezes, all been very fast, and yet all of his races have been route races on grass. So I just felt like, based on the way he's been training on our main track, he's at the lowest level he's ever been at. Arami has been Rossi's go-to guy. I mean, 2 out of 7, wins, and he doesn't seem like he wins with anyone else. So, again, in a race where it's hard to have a lot of confidence, the way Bishop Creek is training, that's more than enough of a tiebreaker for me.
Yeah. Well, that's the benefit you have as clocking, and that's the benefit of knowing workouts, because that's about all you have to go, quite honestly, with him. I mean, he is taking a little class drop. He's changing surfaces. He's turning back in distance, but, he has sprinted before, albeit shorter. He's done the main track thing before. Mm-hmm. He's done sealed tracks, and the one common denominator is he's almost always beaten double digits and has never really been competitive, but this field is a different animal. I'm going with Hopkinsville for a couple of reasons. He's been gelded. The form says he's an unaltered 5-year-old horse, but he's a gelding. Don't know anything about the dam. The first foal out of J. Kitty, who was unraced. What's interesting to me about this Oklahoma bred, J. Allen Williams is a high percentage trainer. He's had this horse at Tulsa. Tulsa's meet has started. Their maiden special weights run for $17,050. This purse is $16,000.
Yeah.
But their maiden claimers run for nothing, like $6,000.
Yes.
So he obviously didn't want to run for a tag up there. If he could run for a tag here and run in a $16,000 purse race, but he also didn't want to take on maiden specials at Tulsa, which I don't know if that's a red flag or not. Maybe it's just being cautious, but he makes a 5-hour van ride instead. All of that has really nothing to do with anything, but I'm taking the 5-year-old Firster because I don't like anybody else. And I think Final Bet, the Danny Pish Firster, who's an Arkansas bred, Pish's numbers are not good with Firsters, and his numbers in a small sample are not good at all with debuting in a maiden claimer, but this horse may be able to back into a second or third place finish. So that's how I took
Yeah,
that.
The Final Bet, my negative on him was just he's an Arkansas bred, and we just finished Oaklawn, and he never made an attempt to get in those races.
True, and he was training
he'd been
over
working
there,
he was up to 5/8. But
maybe he just wasn't quite ready.
But Hopkinsville, the stats, Williams is one with 2 of his last 4 firsters.
Yeah.
I circled 5-year-old. Usually I circle that as a positive, to be honest. When I clicked, if I remember correctly, when I clicked on career works, right, where you can see all the works, I don't think he had any other than what shows in the form, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Where's he been?
Yeah, it's interesting where's he's been. So I don't think he's worried about losing the horse. 5-year-old Okie bred. This might be a really slick move on his part. As you were talking, I was looking at the good works at Will Rogers, not the really bad one at Fair Meadows. I'm thinking maybe I should have given him a little more respect because he does have a couple really nice breezes, and Williams is good with firsters. He's not taking money at the moment, but we got a long time to go.
And you see those handily works. The clockers in Oklahoma go handily with everything. They're like Southern California clockers.
They do.
You almost never see a breeze there. It's just a difference in
and I will mention Hardy Boy. I made him 9-5. I mean, he just has the best figures in the race, and he's been close many times. Joel Mar wins races. He's off to a real sluggish start here. However, to me, we're guessing with the other horses. With this Hardy Boy, he's probably going to run a 50, and that might be good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be.
My comment for him was, Fig's okay, never wins.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 0 for 14, and they've tried him down low. They've tried him against New Mexico breds. They've tried him in allowance company against winners. He pretty much runs the same race every time.
Yeah, he's been under 2-1 4 times, and I think it'll be a 5th time. Maybe today he'll get it done.
He could. It's not going to be with me on his back.
No, it won't be with me
necessarily, but it could. Race 2. Scratch number 4, Igor Ote. Texas breds for $7,500, non-winners of 3, and I am going with convention in this race, and you are not, and that worries me.
Because you went with the layup, which this could easily be a layup. This is one of the
I don't know.
This is a kind of a move that I'll take essay, and you'll get creative, and then I get the cheap winner.
The win, yeah.
But this time, I went with my stopwatch again. May 31st, Ernesto Torres, one of my favorite horsemen, 47-1. I mean, that was so much the fastest breeze that day. What I remember about it is the track opened up, and immediately this horse is on the ground, on the track. I mean, Ernesto couldn't wait to get him out here. You can kind of make excuses for the last few races. I have no problem doing that. The horse is 2 for 20, but he's very good here. 9 races, 2 wins, 2 second-place finishes. I certainly like that. Route to sprint for Ernesto, 24% wins. That's terrific. I noticed he was 35% winners. Do they count Arabs into win percentages, I wonder?
I don't think so.
Okay, those are thoroughbreds.
Well,
so he had a
I
heck
would
of a meet.
I would think they're just thoroughbreds.
I would too. I'm just curious. I know the quarter horses don't count.
But that
Arabians,
does seem like a high percentage.
Yeah, he'll win 25% sometimes, but he's at a very high percentage.
Maybe they do count
considering he's ducking here. But my point is this horse has really good Lone Star form, and just based on that breeze and dropping from an allowance all the way into a condition claiming race, I felt like if Calhoun's horse is a suspiciously large drop-in class, which, sometimes they drop to win, sometimes they drop for a different reason, and I thought, let's roll the dice here. Let's go with Ozzy's Wings YG.
Yeah. You might get a win here. I mean, that's possible. SA, to me, I took him because I didn't think anybody else excited me enough.
Yeah.
It's a non-winners of 3. SA was a really good 2-year-old. I mean, he was a lesser stakes type 2-year-old who got pounded in the Springboard Mile, but this year he's 0 for 5, and they've abandoned, I guess, any hope of him being a stake-type horse anymore. I throw out that turf sprint here. I mean, he seemed to be out of his element against older turf sprinters. He's a lone 3-year-old in here. I think he's a little vulnerable, but I took him anyway. So we'll know how my day goes. If he runs up the track, because days that you, as a public handicapper, days you have just a couple of favorites, and then you're banking on some breaks the rest of the way. If your favorites, your so-called layups, don't come in, you're in some trouble sometimes. Race 3, maiden special weights, 3 and up, 6.5 furlongs, no scratches here. And again, we have a lot of different top picks this time. Your horse, Booze in the Blender, is first-time Lasix. He ran on Lasix way back a year ago, but he has not been on it lately, and now he's back on it today. I don't know if I would have picked him if I had known that, but because he's coming off the bench and, but nonetheless, this is an interesting proposition.
Yeah, this horse, Booze in the Blender, this is my best long shot today. And it is. I thought I may have 3 workout picks. They're just the first 3 races. Booze in the Blender came out for Scott Young, who wins a ton of races. In Company, May 31st, and, what's clearly fastest of the 2. They got the same time. This horse looked very sharp. There is some caution. Horses that show a lot of early speed in their races, they tend to be able to breeze really fast. At 4, up to 5 furlongs. At 6, usually they start showing, a little bit of fatigue. But I thought he looked really good. And then I looked and saw his numbers from last year. Those are 2-year-old numbers. There's every reason to believe from October to June he could have filled out and be just a totally different horse. Scott Young, he didn't run him in a maiden 20. Who would claim this horse? He's thinking, I'm going to run this horse in a maiden special weight race. That's my thought. And then he gets Ramon Vasquez, who's, winning everything right now.
Yeah.
So I don't think Scott Young, he's 0 for 3. At least my stats say he's 0 for 3 with Ramon. So there must have been some type of a story to get him on this horse.
Yeah.
So I just think he's going to jump out of there and play catch me if you can.
Yeah. That might be enough in here. I'm taking the Arkansas-bred Markinsaw on the inside. First time this guy has not faced Arkansas breds. He had 3 races in Hot Springs. They were all against Arkansas-bred maidens, twice maiden special weights. He was first-time Lasix last time and first-time Blinkers last time, and he ran a halfway decent race.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, certainly his buyers have been getting progressively better. He ran 3rd, beaten by 5. He picks up Louis Q. Louis Q doesn't ride here that much, and he certainly doesn't ride the volume that he used to ride.
Right.
So when he gets on a horse, especially one that clearly is going to, if he has any chance, it's going to be coming late and wide, which is what this Markinsaw has done every time. He's just tried to circle them. Maybe he can catch up to this group. 8-7 Magic could be tough. I thought he showed a little bit of gameness last time. In the very first race of the meet, he was well beaten by Knock Knock Joke, but he was second best.
Mm-hmm.
He stayed inside, and I thought he showed a little bit of gameness to hold on for second. He's going to be dangerous in here. Campari has 2 siblings that won first time out. Mudlaugh Charlie, the dam, was 2 for 4 and won her second and third career starts. So that Carrie Craddock firster might be worth a look.
Mm-hmm.
Denizen and Falcon Quest both come out of the same race. They both ran about the same. Falcon Quest was a lot shorter price. He'll take some money, but I didn't wedge him into the picks. I mean, he could beat me, but it's a pretty wide open.
Yeah, this is a great race. Buyers don't help you, really. I mean, every horse in here you can project to run in the low 60s probably today. That would be my expected winning buyer figure. So this is a race, as people know, this is the type of race I pick my best long shot because there's no standout whatsoever.
Yeah.
It looks like whoever works out the best trip. It will be interesting with Markinsaw. He's drawn an outside post every single race. And finally, he's inside the horses. I could see a positive there, finally saving ground. Or he's going to get mud in his face for the first time because he's been wide. Just see how he handles that. But he's live. He's got the fastest figure in the race. And so this is an excellent race.
Yeah, it is. On to the 4th. Philly, non-winners of 3 claimers here, in for $20,000, a mile and 1/16 on the turf. Fillies and mares 3 and up. One note about Run, Wit, Run. Number 11, not in our picks, but They tried to get her a start on May 18th, and she refused to load. Just would not go in. After a couple of minutes, they scratched her. So Run, Wit, Run refused to load on May 17th. It doesn't show up in the classic PPs. I don't know in your fancy formulator PPs if that kind of thing shows up. But Run, Wit, Run tried to give it a go on May 18th. Looks like she's coming off a 2-month layoff, and she is.
Yeah.
But keep that in mind. So aside from that, another pretty wide open race.
Yeah, and I'm sure Run's been to the gate a few times in the mornings. No works, but at least getting her in there and then, making sure she relaxes and stays in there.
Yeah.
The 10, super enticing. I could see this horse being a short price if Connections think he's going to run back to those Del Mar races. Clear the non-winners of 2 condition at Del Mar last summer. I mean, obviously those races in California, are likely to win. Then a bunch of dirt races, of course, at Oaklawn Park all winter and spring. Those races were so-so. Moving up in class, there's a case to be made that, this horse is running, good for Peter Miller, and he dropped knowing this horse, he was ready to drop, and Steve, Asmussen claimed it, and, she's just not the same, or she's much better on turf.
Yeah.
So this is one of those races where I mentioned this last Sunday in a seminar of Asmussen's horse. If it gets hammered, it'll win, and if it doesn't, and Doris did get hammered. I think it paid 3-something, right?
Was that Hoff you're talking about?
Yeah, he got really crushed and won, and I thought that might happen. And super enticing, I think, is a similar type of horse in that if the money really hits hard, I assume it's going to be a really tough mare to beat.
I agree. I used the exact term in my PPs that you did for her Oaklawn campaign, so-so. I'm hoping that she runs back. Her turf races last year, 3 of them she was overmatched in a big way, and the other one where she wasn't, she won.
Right.
I'm hoping that the turf helps her. Araniti, the 2, she could win. I mean, I liked her when she first came here May 4th of last year, and that was her last win. Since then, 4 non-wins, 3 straight second-place finishes. She just seems like the type that knocks on the door and just is fine with running second. So I went ahead and took Hollywood Boulevard is maybe the most intriguing horse to me. Good speed. I don't know how much other, legit speed there is in here. She could lead, for quite a way.
Yeah, Northeast Star has California maiden form too. So,
yeah.
It's again, it's another race. It's really good.
True. Northeast Star, an Irish bred, was claimed 3 times in a row prior to her last start at Turf Paradise. On to the 5th, 7/8 of a mile, maiden fillies in for $7,500 tag.
Yeah, and I think the 9 Bougie Like, has some really interesting things going. This is 7/8 of a mile on dirt. We typically like horses that show speed in route races, cutting back to this distance, and that's what you get with Bougie Like, albeit her front-running route races are all on turf, but nevertheless, 2 at Santa Anita, 1 here at Lone Star Park. I certainly like that. Turf to dirt, Calvario, he's been really good off first time with trainer stats. We noticed that. Looks like turf to dirt with a pretty large sample size. He wins with this too. I do like the sharp work, not since his last race, but I just liked his only serious breeze at Lone Star Park produced a very fast time on May 9th. And now dropping to the bottom of our maiden claiming ranks after, like I said, some front-running route races on turf. Should be as fit as this mare can be. And maybe, as a rider that doesn't draw a lot of attention, maybe we'll actually get a little bit of an overlaid price too.
Yeah. I went for long shots 1, 2, and 3 here, so I didn't end up using Bougie Like, but I respect that she's clearly one of the ones to beat. I'm going with Local Election number 8. Her 1 race was last September, late in her 2-year-old year at Churchill in a restricted maiden special weight race, 77-1. There were 3 next out winners that ran 1, 2, 3 in that field. She had the outside post, was a little bit close to the pace, not close, but chasing it early and then back completely outran dead last, beaten a mile. That was with Terry Brennan. Now she's with Ike Green. First-time Lasix, coming off the layoff. I don't like anybody else's form in here. Stuart Elliott takes the call.
Yep.
He has no history riding for Ike Green, so like you said, there must be a story there somewhere. The works are decent enough, albeit a little pedestrian, but this is a pedestrian level of race.
It is.
I'm taking her over Come On Sing. Here's a Texas bred who has a combined 6 Fire Fig from her last 2 races combined, but takes a nice drop in class back to a level where she's competitive, picks up the leading rider, and her works are decent enough as well. She has 4 works for Brent Davidson since her last race. That was enough for me. And Calhoun has an interesting one in Little Ragdoll, an Arkansas bred who comes in from Archie bred races where she was beating double digits every time. But this field today is a whole different story. All due respect to Bougie and Isabella. I mean, this is a different type of field that some of these fillies haven't been facing
That's true.
lately.
And I was able to clock the work on local election, went by herself, and that 49-2 actually went faster around the turn than she did down the straight. So I consider that very much a positive. She went 24-2 around the turn and 49-2 final time. So she was picking up speed as as the workout went longer. So
that's
I think that's a really good pick.
I mean, again, I'm taking a few shots here. If we live up to that 40% win percentage of favorite that we're hovering around, some of these swings might not make it. But on to the 6th. All older runners entered in this one, 1 1/16, a condition claiming event. Scratch the 6 Tigers and Bears.
Yeah, that Barefoot Samurai, I'm going to go that direction. Tigers and Bears was going to take quite a bit of money in this field, so that'll suppress the odds on some of them. Last time out, tried allowance rivals, Barefoot Samurai, and ran 4th. Not a bad race, was extremely wide on the second turn, and I thought, that cost this horse a little bit. Previous race was in a claiming price, $7,500. Today's is $5,000, and won convincingly, despite having some traffic issues. That was with Cabrera, a different rider. 2 previous races, so-so races, and then Cabrera, you can see, shows up at Houston on Jan 17th, another convincing win. So, for reasons that sometimes are hard to really understand, this horse runs really well with Cabrera in the irons. Really well when entered for a claiming price. Those so-so efforts were all allowance races, and again, back in for $5,000. If everything holds like it has up to this point, a claiming race, main track, Cabrera in the irons, the typical effort for this 5-year-old at this level is generally good enough to win.
Yeah, I agree, although I took the one Wartime Hero. The running style for both Wartime Hero and Barefoot Samurai, very similar. They both like to sit, stalk a little bit, and rally. Wartime Hero, I went and watched that May 3rd race at Oaklawn. He hardly moved a muscle. I mean, he didn't have any trouble. He didn't break fast, but he broke cleanly, dropped straight to the back, and just ran around there. That was a $12,500 condition claiming race. Now he drops all the way down to 5. He's not at Oaklawn anymore. I'm kind of taking the anti-Oaklawn, get away from Oaklawn angle on a couple of races today. And this is the portion of the program where I take Asmussen a lot, so I hope he has a good day. That's about the bulk of my feelings about Wartime Hero. Don't love the fact that after Oaklawn he shipped him to LAD, because I just kind of have a feeling that maybe that's not Steve's better string. But
yeah, that horse, Wartime Hero, one thing about it, he's never been that far behind. The pace was very fast, and he just, it says broke back.
That just means I watched that. I think what JT, the veteran chart caller, meant was he broke in the back of the field. He didn't have any trouble, like he didn't sit back or anything like that. He just broke in the back of the field.
Yeah,
I think that's what JT means.
Yeah, they did go a very fast opening quarter. Maybe he was just so far back. Horses like to be in a certain position, most of them. Stalkers are stalkers, and mid-pack or mid-packs. And maybe he was just so far back the horse didn't know what to do.
Yeah, it could very well be. 7th race. Back to the turf. mile and a 16th. You could be in for $50,000. You can be a non-winner of a race other than maiden claiming starter or state bred at a mile or over on the turf this year. Or you can be a non-winner of 4. Scratch the 2023 Texas Derby winner, Hayes Strike. I think you picked him in that race. He's entered for main track only, so he's out.
Yeah, Carly's Dreams just, seems to really like it here. 8 years old now. Was a nice optional claim. This is an optional claiming 50, optional claiming 30. 2 other than. Was a really nice winner, 2 starts back. Last time out at a level a little bit higher than this. Finished second, had the lead, took over the lead, and was run down by Creative Minister.
Who ran his eyeballs out. And then went on to finish 4th in the Steve Sexton mile.
Yeah.
And not a close 4th, but wound up taking 4th in the mile.
Yeah, Creative Minister had a lot of back class. So
yes,
he just kind of put it all together that day and ran down Carly's Dream. Now, can this 8-year-old run 3 races in a row, that good? I mean, we'll see. Excellent record at the distance. Like I said, been in the exacta in 7 of 11 tries over Lone Star Park surface, so really likes it here. And I'm just assuming he's one of those that works out a perfect trip every time because he has such natural speed, and he usually has no excuses. He wins or he gets outrun. I mean, you don't have to worry about his trip usually.
Right, and Diego is perfect rider for him. He suits him well. He rides well on any type of horse. I mean, I love Carly's Dream, and he certainly loves this course. I went with Unload, though, a horse making his local debut. Actually, he's not. He's making his local debut on the turf, but he did run here last year one time and won on the main track. Unload is a gun runner from a full sister to the champion Untappable. Remember Winchell's Untappable with Steve Asmussen? I mean, an unbelievable champion mare about 10 years or so ago. Untapped, the dam of Unload, is a full sister to Untappable. Impeccable breeding. No real turf history. 1 race at Remington. That was the Remington Green.
Right.
It's only a $75,000 purse, but that's usually a pretty good turf race. This is basically a stakes horse who, was drilled in the Essex. I mean, I can excuse that. But has a lot of good speed and seems to be training really well. Second time on turf. 10-1 on the line. Comes out of a race with a horse that came back and won the Pimlico Special, which isn't the kind of race it used to be, but it's still a grade 3.
Still, yeah.
And Awesome Aaron won the Pimlico Special in his next start. Now, this horse was beaten almost 9 lengths there in his last outing, but I'm going to give him a shot to maybe try to wire them. Yep. Race 8. Fillies and mares 3 and up. They all older, though, entered this one. 6 furlongs the distance. You can be in for an $18,000 tag, or you could be non-winners of a race other than, or you could be a non-winner of 2. I've got a lot of red flags surrounding both of our top picks. She's not a joke. I think she's definitely the best filly in here, but I got red flags all over the place with her.
Yeah, she's not a joke. I like her. I'm not sure if it was the barn change or the equipment change. That just all of a sudden she got really good.
Yeah.
She was in Hot Springs with Tim Martin, who does win races, wins a ton of them in Prairie Meadows, but he does win races at Oaklawn. It was claimed for $35,000 for Matt Williams, and this horse responded right away with a really nice win. Went to the starter allowance ranks, finished 3rd. The winner, Itzel's one of those extremely fast horses, really quick. And, went wire to wire, no surprise at Oaklawn Park, going to the front. Then they tried to route a ground to close out the meet there and got beat a nose. Notice rapidly improving buyer figures. Now back sprinting. I don't know if she's a better sprinter or router at this point in time, but got a lot of experience sprinting. Again, for Matt Williams, been very good. Don't see any breezes in May. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the one red flag mainly is no breezes in May. I'm glad that she's not entered for the claiming tag. At least they won't lose her. I'd be a little worried if she's had this good run of success,
right?
And they drop her down in, but she's not in for the tag, so that's okay. Maybe she just isn't the kind of filly at this point after an Oaklawn campaign that wasn't that long on races, but those might have been tiring efforts.
Yeah, but now that I look at the spacing of her last three races, they're about the same as this, roughly 5 to 6 weeks. So
yeah.
I guess Matt Williams, maybe that's what he's done. He's realized she needs more space.
Yeah.
I actually remember being on the apron talking to Tom Amos, I hate to say this, 30 years ago, and he had a filly with tremendous form reversal. And I said, what do you do with this? And he said, Rick, I realize she needs over a month rest between her races, and all of a sudden she got really, really good. And maybe she's not a joke, is just like that.
Well, I have the red flag about the works, but now that you mention it, that's a very good point. I mean, her 4 races at Oaklawn were spaced about 6 weeks apart.
Mm-hmm.
One other one I'd like to mention is the 10 Icy River, Cameron Milligan. This mare has really good speed, can go on any type of surface, likes to sprint. Her race on May 2nd at Oaklawn was on a sloppy track, and she faced a couple of next out winners. But she's a filly that might be able to warm them up here sprinting.
Mm-hmm.
So at a price, threw her in for second. Race number 9. 9th race, non-winners of 2, Texas bred allowance. Non-winners of 2, 7/8 of a mile. Scratch the 7, hashtag make it happen. This is an interesting race because 4 of them come out of recent maiden victories, good maiden victories. So you're judging horses that have been facing non-winners of 2 types against horses who've been facing maidens and just beat them. So what does a recent good maiden win? How does it compare with a horse like, for example, my pick, Rarotonga, who's been running in, Texas-bred stakes 2 of the last 3 races and getting beaten? How do those 2 races compare, You've gone for one of the last out maiden winners in Binary Code, whose win here was very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I got 7-2, 4-1, 6-1, 9-2s. 5-1s. This was a scramble.
This is quite a raffle.
Yeah, I have no idea if I'm right on the odds or the pick because it should be very tight though. I did go with Binary Code. My thought was beating only a neck in their second career start at Houston. That was a really nice sprint. So for those that think, bet around 2 turns, I'm not that sure about that. The route race, like you mentioned, was a very good race. It was it the mud or was it the blinkers? That's another thing you got to think about. Added blinkers, but did catch a muddy track and ran just a terrific race. I like Ray Ashford, how things are going for him. I see a steady improvement in every race. Should be a pretty confident colt coming over here after that nice, convincing win. I just felt like this might be the now colt in this field.
Yeah.
So I went that way.
Yeah, that's as good a reason as any. I went with Rarotonga, who is the very lukewarm morning line favorite. Overmatched in some races, but not hugely overmatched in the betting, but just has been in tough in a couple of those Texas-bred stakes.
Right.
Not humiliated or beaten badly in any of them, but the maiden win was solid back in January at Houston, going 6 furlongs. I don't know. I like the fact he has a 6 furlong breeze. I don't love the horse. He's coming off a little bit of a layoff. His form has been decent against possibly better than these. So in a coin flip, I took him.
Yeah, you can make a case for a lot of them, but you can also poke holes in a lot of them. That's what makes that race tough.
Yeah, it's a really good race as far as competitiveness. And the 10th and final mile on the turf. Non-winners of 3 claimers in for $20,000. Scratch the 6 T. Kaloo and the 11 Crazy Ridge.
Yeah, this is another toughie. I went with Mambrino. I just feel like he's going to go to the front and play catch me if you can. That's a good strategy. 3 races all on dirt. This is his first time on turf, but he's got enough of a turf pedigree. He's a 4-year-old, so he's at his peak. And I just feel like with the turf pedigree, Ramon Vasquez, our high percentage leading rider aboard, there's a lot to be said for being on the lead, turning for home, especially in a condition claiming race. So I'm going to take Mambrino.
I'm going to take a swing here because there's a possibility that a Mr. Jaws or a Big Wave James might try to soften up Mambrino.
Mm-hmm.
That remains to be seen. I'm going to take Gabara. One thing you have to note here about Gabara, That last race was his first time stretching out on the turf. He was a huge long shot against a better field. He was right up in the race, and a horse fell right in front of him in the stretch, bumped into him, and he stopped. I mean, he literally had to stop lest he fall down himself. That's why he finished 8th, beating 24 3/4. He probably would have been 4th or 5th, beating about 2.5 or 3 lengths. If you take that out and say, okay, he ran 4th, beating 3 lengths, he would be a much shorter price today.
Right.
But unfortunately, a horse fell in front of him. He couldn't avoid it. Of course, that didn't make its way into the comment. It just says bumped.
Yeah,
but
it should have.
Yeah, it certainly should have. But the other races, sprinting for this guy, were not bad. He sprints like he wants to go a route. So I'm going to take him and hope maybe your horse gets a little compromised up front. You're going to hope for the Ashford Daily Double. I'm going to hope for a little bit of a price like we had last night in the last race when Richard Aramia came flying down the center on a 36-1 shot. There's a lot of interesting propositions. Joe Pedalino has a couple of interesting horses, or at least one. Oh no, he has 2. He has the 1 and the 2. The Ain't That a Kick certainly could be coming late and rolling late in this one.
Yeah, your pick, Gabarra, reminds me of a Vic Stauffer pick that I hated one day, and he actually was right. And my thinking was, and it is on Gabarra as well, why so many races and never route the horse if you think the horse can go that far? I mean, Vic's horse had run like 28 times, never routed, and finally they gave it a shot. And I'm thinking, why would you think this horse can run? Because it had been with a good trainer, and then like an average trainer. The average trainer decided, I'm going to stretch him out, and he won and paid $30. I'm like, what? Where Gabarra, his sprints are plenty good enough to win, 100%.
Yeah.
And Karen certainly waited a long time to route this horse.
Did.
But, like you said, I overlooked that tidbit when I was looking here.
Well, it looks like he just
race,
stopped in the
and
last
there's no
8.
comment whatsoever.
Right.
I could end up, looking foolish in there.
No,
but we'll see. I mean, you did go out on a limb in a lot of races
I did.
today. I mean, you could have the best day of your career.
I
right?
could, but we'll see.
No, I like it because you have really good rationale for your long shots. I mean, you actually convinced me on a couple of them.
We'll see.
So
I hope they run. I hope they run decently.
They will.
We're really a little behind time, but the Belmont today, it's a pretty interesting field with the Derby and the Preakness winner. Obviously the Preakness winner shrouded by all that trouble in the race where he made his own room.
Yeah.
The Derby winner came from a mile out of it and had a really nice Derby. You got a couple of other interesting ones. The Baffert in there. That's kind of interesting, but are you on one of the previous Triple Crown winners?
Yeah, Baeza was a fast-closing third in the Derby, and luckily for all 3 of those horses, it's a wet track or muddy track again today. I picked Baeza this time because when I watched the replay, one jump past the wire, he blew by Journalism.
There you go.
He was clearly better than Journalism in the Derby, and John Sheriff's doesn't ship. I mean, he's going to win, like Zenyatta, the way he managed. He's not going to ship all the way over there to run third. I got to believe he knows he can win.
Good.
And his comments I've been reading, he seems like he thinks he's got a really nice colt on his hands. So
good.
I'm going with the horseman who doesn't ship unless he's winning.
Yeah. And maybe they named the horse to butter up Braulio Baeza, the very influential steward in New York and former all-time great jockey.
Yes.
I mean, other than Harvey Baeza, our quarter horse trainer, I don't know too many other people named Baeza.
No, I don't either.
All right. We're a little behind. So thanks as always.
Yeah, thank
We'll do
you.
it again tomorrow on a big day tomorrow. Stars of Texas Day, T-shirt day tomorrow to the first 1,200 fans. Really good Texas bred stakes tomorrow. A little teaser. First time in my life, I think, I'm picking against Sunlit Song tomorrow. So it's hard to do. All right, thanks for looking in. 26 minutes to post for the first.
In the event of an emergency, Lone Star Park is dedicated to ensuring the safety of our patrons.